thing. I mean, you know, there would be no Yosef ben Yochanan if it had not been a J.A. Rogers, you know. He constantly keeps shining this light on this prestigious fact that these Europeans have all these black folks in their family tree, you know, which in 1930, 40, and 50 was quite a revelation. Okay, I mean, you know, as far as black folks are concerned, but we have to look at the psychology of our people in the 30s and 40s and 50s. You know, when the illusion of inferiority was alive and well in black folks' mind, you know. I mean, to be a little bit lighter than dark brown was somehow more prestigious than being jet black. You know, that's the kind of psychology our parents walked around here with, you know. And I had one of them light-skinned daddies. My dad is light as that sister there with gray eyes. And this is his head. I look exactly like my daddy, except I'm dark brown. And he got in a cab. The only time I could see him project his pride or his ethnic, he got in a cab, me and him got in a cab coming from downtown, and the white cab driver said, "Where you want to go, Mac?" I said, "Don't be calling me no damn Mac. My name ain't Mac. My name is Mr. Freeman, and don't you forget it." And the white dude said, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry." You know, because if you look at my daddy quick, you thought you was looking at a white man, you know. If you look at him real good, you can see the brother coming up, you know. But he's an interesting man, and I truly regret that he did not get an opportunity to get the kind of education that his heart desired. He was almost completely illiterate. He could hardly read. But he loved law and he loved politics. When he died, he had 3 books. He had a dictionary, an encyclopedia, and one copy of Black's law book, you know. And he could hardly read, you know. But he was one of these street corner politicians and street corner lawyers, you know, sit on the street, you know, and kick it with the boys, you know, about what happened to so-and-so, because, you know, black folks been going in and out of jail since we were supposed to have been emancipated and proclamated, you know. So he was one of those kind of brothers. And it's interesting because he changed his name from Foreman to Freeman, you know. When he left New Orleans, he was a policy runner. He was the bank for the number house in New Orleans, or one of them, and 4 or 5 black folks hid it for about $30,000 apiece. He grabbed my mom and left town and changed his name. It's very interesting that he would choose the name Freeman, you know, even at that unconscious state of awareness, you know, because he had no cultural input that I knew of now, you know, because I didn't get a chance to talk with him as a young man. He died in my freshman year of college. But it's very interesting that he would choose such a liberating concept, you know. You know, he could have said Brown or anything else, you know. He chose Freeman. Okay, that's enough of my little life story. I guess we'll get started here. Are we clicked on there, my brother? We are on? Okay. Okay, this is the beginning of a 12-week course on Introduction to Moorish Identity. And the reason I'm using the concept identity instead of science or for all of us is to find identity. One of the major symptomatics of what's wrong with black folks in America in 1997, February, is the problem of psychological disorientation about who we are and what we are, and most assuredly where we are. So the first 3 keys we're going to deal with is going to be with identity. And identity begins with name. Now, I'm not collaborating, I am collaborating, I'm not contradicting the idea of the membership and being a part of the Moorish nation, that's important for us to have a collective consciousness idea. No matter where we are or what we're doing, we've lost that, and we've bought into just being Americans, and even with big money, it still is second-class citizenry in this country. You know, I mean, you know, it doesn't matter. And we see that with what can happen to any black man, woman, or child in this country. Of course, it's gotten to be dangerous for anybody in America to be on the street. But thinking of Enos, whose parents were able to surround him with wealth, but they couldn't protect him, you see. And but they had the money and the prestige to do so, you know. Of course, I mean, you know, rich white folks' kids are dying too, so that's not really the major point. We need to move towards each other from a positive point of view. But we need to do it knowledgeably, not with the fervor and the passion of rejection. That was Garvey's energy. That's why it was possible for him to draw so quickly and so many. Black folks knew white America didn't want them. They weren't blind about that they were outside of the center of everything, you see. And I had the wonderful opportunity to hear a 12-minute audio tape of Garvey speaking, eloquent. You know, brothers, words get in your ears, you got to listen. You know, you can't ignore him. He was just a born orator, you know. But the energy was that of fury during his time, just as it was during Drew Ali's time. You know, black folks were angry. You know, we like to talk or point out the idea of hate and hating. That was not black folks' energy. They were angry about the stuff, you see. Maybe they could not define or distinguish the difference between hate and anger, but the problem, the energy, was that of anger, of being mistreated, you know, of being maltreated, and of being used and misused. That was the psychological state of the unconscious Moors of that period, and it still is alive in the unconscious level of our subconscious, as we saw with Rodney. You know, that was anger. It wasn't hatred. It was anger. You know, anger is a behavior, you know, that drives you forward, you know, if you don't check it, and can, as we've seen, can destroy your life. So the first thing we want to deal with is identity. Well, one of us is getting ready to write here, but first I should be writing identity. The important key about this concept is that identity begins with name, not color, not size, nor gender. And the problem of gender has been a religious problem for black folks in America as Christians. We have a male God only, you see. And that automatically put the woman, the mother, not way in the background, but way up under the pulpit, you know. And that has been a problem, and it's still a psychological problem for black women in America who own the black church. That's her church. She built that, you know. But she does not control it, because as far as the preacher is concerned, that's her Jesus. You know, she'll die for her preacher. She'll die for him. You know, black woman loves the preacher. That's what kept the black Christian church up. Okay, believe it if you don't want to believe it. But if you look at the count of congregation of individual and collective churches, the majority of dark-skinned, broad-nosed, thick-lipped Christians in this country are black women, not black men and black boys. Okay? That's who that church belongs to. Name is significant because it tells us about nature, about our nature. That's why all of the scriptures are filled up with all these remarkable names for God. Okay, as we talked in other classes, the Quran has 99 names, the Bhagavad Gita has 108 names, and the Old Bible, the Torah, had 72 names printed. There were 72 different names in the Old Testament of the Judaic Bible. And then, of course, the New School, the Protestants, took them all out, and just put Jehovah in there. In some editions, they just put Lord, which brought it closer to the science of the scriptures when they did that. But the concept name is not nationality. It can become nationality if a people claim themselves as a nation. The important key we need to understand about this particular name this is ethnocentric. It represents your blood, your chemistry, your genetics. Wherever dark-skinned, broad-nosed, thick-lipped, and furrowed-haired people are on this planet, they keep making the same complexions, the same features, the same bone body structures, and the same genetic coding. That's ethnocentric. Okay? And that's important because you're talking about your Monday to Sunday psychology. Okay? When you go in the freshman year of college, you go in, what's up, my brother? Then when you come out and graduate, you come out, how are ya? You've changed your psychology. Okay? Okay? You went in black and come out Afro-Saxon, as one brother said. Yeah. And that's confusing, and we all know that. I mean, we've met brothers who stand on that academic platform, political platform, who if you put your hand over your eyes, you could not tell if that's a white man or a white woman standing in front of you. You could, And I understand how that happened, okay, because I had to deal with myself. I remember when the head of the boys club met me after my freshman year of college, and I saw him going across the street, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Spotwood," and called him, and went up and shook his hand. "Hi, how are you?" And that was me talking, He said, "A little Cornelius," like that. My goodness, you can articulate and you sound intelligent, That was the measuring rod for being intelligent, educated, or whatever concepts that fit some higher status than being a colored kid, Okay, so we understand the model that was set up, that we were supposed to go through, and the fact that little or no teachers were paying any attention to Carter G. Woodson. There were a few around. I had one of these nationalist grade school teachers, Miss Moody, who played, I hate to see what's that song? Dun 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 dun. The evening sun go down. She called that the national anthem. Mrs. Moody. She was a music teacher. She's very, very Afrocentric, I guess would be an appropriate word even for then. She didn't say that, but she kept talking about our people, or it's in all black grade school, but she talked about our people, So, beginning at this point is for us very important word, motif, the central theme of study. Whatever you're studying, whether it's biology or Bible, the theme, you, remains the same. The knowledge of self will not change down here or on the next plane. You'll still be looking for knowledge of self. You see? Provided you have the spirit of knowledge. Now, if you go into a level of faith or belief, then it's just going to be so wonderful, you won't care who you are. You'll be so happy and joyous. But even there, you have to study. Something that Christians need to find out. If you don't study here, if you don't learn here, you're going to study and learn on the next plane, whatever plane that is you go to. Okay? I mean, everybody ain't going to heaven that's coming out of the church. Someone going to another plane that look just like this one. You know, they wake up, get up out of the bed, and they'll be somewhere else. You know, they'll be the same size, the same individual, except their consciousness will be different. You know, that's one of the passing over levels of fourth dimensional process. That isn't evolution, that's a revolution, because they got to come back down here, get them another body, and start off where they left off. So we begin with name. In the first place I want us to be able to look and to make reference to is in the dictionary. Okay? And that, Oma, do we have that big old dictionary? They got one about this big, got every word on the planet in it. Is that around? Okay, I need to get that, because I want to do this as systematically as possible. Yeah. Oh, there you are. Okay, I need the big dictionary. Thank you. The brother heard me all the way back there. Yeah, the name isn't in every dictionary. The little $3.95 pocket dictionaries you buy, it's not going to be in there. Okay. I had the wonderful pleasure one day of going in Goodwill's, just browsing, and like I like to do, and go back there where most bright folks don't go back, in them big barrels where they throw the books instead of throwing them in the garbage can. And there was this dictionary, published in 1958, cost 50 cents. You know, and the first thing I do is turn right to the B's, you know, because that's where you find more at. Right under black, the next word is black or more. And it was interesting because it gave a descriptive. Any dark-skinned person, anyone in Africa, and in parentheses,